The holidays can be magical for children, but your stress may end up rubbing off on them. This time of year tends to see a spike in behavioral issues. The founder of Engage Kidz, Maxwell, has some tips for families on how to tackle the season. I'm so glad you're here to talk about this.
Yes.
We were just talking in the commercial break too. More and more people, I think, are decorating earlier, and while that's great, getting ready for the season, it also feels like the stress is starting to creep in sooner too.
I agree. I'm also hoping, though, that maybe it'll alleviate some of the stress, right? Like, there's so many things to do with the holidays, and maybe decorating early can help families calm down from that a little.
Yeah, like maybe. It's not like 3 weeks. Like we're not on a tight deadline. So talk about the behavioral issues and why we see a spike this time of year.
Well, I mean, as we know, all the things that we kind of push into this one little, well, 3 weeks, 4 weeks of time to shop and decorate and all these different things. And we as adults feel the stress, and that all trickles down to our kids. We're modeling that behavior for them, and so we're not handling our stress very well, and so then the kids aren't handling theirs either. Plus, we're not spending a lot of time with them. We're spending a lot of time doing and putting and planning and all these other things, but we're not necessarily spending time with the kids.
So it would probably be important to carve that time out too in the middle of all the chaos.
Yes.
So what kind of behavioral issues would you likely see because of the stress rubbing off on them?
Well, all kinds of different things. I mean, for the little ones, it might just, well, for any of them, agitation, not listening as well, pushing their boundaries a little bit more than usual. We could see some sleep issues. There could even be some eating concerns, things like that happening, but kind of the whole gamut of behavioral issues that we see. Also not wanting to leave the parent's side a little bit more, so some of that like separation anxiety type stuff. Plus, you know, we don't stop and think about it, but the holidays also have a lot of breaks in our schedule. So almost similar to like the summer breaks, the kids don't know what's going to be happening. So, you know, pull out your schedule and start putting it on there, letting the kids know where you're going to be, who's going to be staying with you, what the different schedules can look like.
Well, and I was going to ask you about that too, about the schedules, because we know how important a routine is. And it can break so easily during the holiday season.
Yes, usually for Thanksgiving, we can get away with it a little bit more because it's shorter. But when you go 2, 3, 4 days in a row with bedtimes being off or no naps or just the chaos of everything, it can really have an effect on the kiddos.
Having extra company, sometimes they bring their pets, like there can be a lot of extra stimulation too in the house.
Completely, and you know, still trying to get the kids on that it doesn't have to be rigid schedule, but you know, if bedtime is usually 8 or 9, try and stick somewhere within a half hour. Don't make it midnight. This is going to throw everybody for a loop.
So normally we talk about younger kids and how this can really affect them, but what about the older kids? What about our teenagers? Are they fazed by any of this?
Oh, completely, and they're not immune either. And you know, of course, they're always pushing their boundaries just a little bit extra anyway, but reminding them, you know, if you guys have a full day planned for the next, you know, couple days, that they do still need to go to bed at a decent hour, still trying to get them to plug their cell phones in, maybe on the main floor rather than in their bedrooms. And again, the family time, spending that time together. Teenagers tend to go off on their own and want to do their own thing, but you know, having some of that family time together will really help, again, kind of like keep the mood of the family.
I know a lot of our kids are socializing when we're not around, so how do we help them with their social skills when there are a lot of adults present or cousins that they don't see all the time? How can we help them through that?
Well, this is tricky too, right? Because like as adults, we're like, oh yeah, we get to take a minute and take a break because there's a whole bunch of kids to play. But it doesn't always work that way.
Right.
And that's of all ages. Even the teenagers don't necessarily get along together all the time. But planning ahead of time. So making sure there are some activities and things for them to do. If you're going to be at a grandparent's house and there's not a lot of kid activities, bring them. Bring art activities, bring some crafts, stuff like that. Also letting the kids know who's going to be there. And so showing them pictures, letting them even do FaceTime, something like that beforehand. If you can get together a little bit beforehand, it'll help because all those personalities for the kids all together can be like a recipe for explosion.
I just saw this at Target the other day. They have this big, it's like a cookie stand or something. It's a cardboard cutout of a stand that you can color, and all the kids can get in on it. You could also just do this with a regular cardboard box, but it's just a fun thing to keep the kids busy.
Yes, and it's simple and it's easy, but it's something that if you don't have ready to go, then they're going to be, I'm bored, or they're picking and poking at each other, and then things are going to blow up.
So we were just talking about this on Pittsburgh Today Live earlier this morning. We were talking about how we have this fancy Christmas time stress that starts to kick in around the holidays. But how do you keep your kids really from noticing that? Is there a way for us to minimize it for ourselves so that they're not absorbing that?
Well, you can try and do a lot of it when they're not around, when they're at school, when they're sleeping. You know, and also not setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
So you're not going to go do your gigantic Thanksgiving shopping 3 days before Thanksgiving when the stores are packed and bring 3 little kids with you.
Right.
You're
Don't do that to
asking
yourself.
to torture yourself and to torture them. So trying to proactively plan a little bit ahead of time. Get sitters. This is when you get the grandparents to come and help. You know, use your community to help you make it a positive experience for the kids. And so then that will again trickle down to the kids and it won't be as stressful.
Patty, thank you so much. I feel better already. I'm telling you, it's starting to kick in earlier and earlier. If you're interested in the services offered at Engage Kidz, we're going to have more information on our website. Well, this next segment may pickle your fancy. We're heading into the kitchen with a restaurant that's all about finding ways to incorporate pickles into their dishes. We'll be right back.